Start.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Chapter 13, Section 3. War affects the world, and here on the left we have an Unterseebooten.
Oh, is that a submarine?
It is a German submarine.
Underwater boat.
And here we have the sinking of the Lusitania.
Oh, it kind of looks like the Titanic.
It does. No Jack on this one.
No.
All right, so for this section we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to start with the Gallipoli campaign, where
Silly name.
the Russians need supplies really badly. And this was a bloody, bloody battle. 250,000 casualties for the Allies. It's the British, the French, the Australians, the New Zealanders who were fighting the Turks. And the battle was a stalemate, but the Allies eventually gave up because they lost so many soldiers.
And this was a good example we talked about before of geopolitics, like fighting for a place based on its location. So trying to get supplies, yes, Vanna, please, thank you, through the strait there to get access to Russia from the south. Because remember, up north, not a lot of access points, cold, and with the blockade over here, we need to get supplies. So we fought a battle there, but it was not very successful.
Like my life, it was an epic fail. Here's a closer view.
Oh dear.
Here's
Ooh.
Istanbul,
Love to
which
go to
used to be.
Istanbul.
Is
Constantinople.
All right, so that was the Gallipoli campaign. Now we're back to America.
I thought this was world history.
U.S. enters the war. That's not going to be till 1917.
Shh. Jeez, rude
Loud
people.
hallways of Maloney. May 1915, a British passenger ship, the Lusitania, was sunk, killing nearly 1,200
Darn
people.
Germans.
But what did the Germans say was on the ship?
They thought there were weapons
Were
and
there?
supplies. I don't know, were there? I think there might have been a few. Yes, those sneaky Americans were trying to help out the Allies.
That's
and,
right.
Yeah.
So the Germans believed any ship carrying weapons should be sunk to the bottom.
Even though they were technically neutral.
Yeah. So President Wilson warned Germany, no more attacking our ships. And they listened for a couple of years until
He was like, you know what?
1917.
Forget this. Let's just all out war.
That's right. The goal was, well, maybe we can make the British surrender, so we're going to sink as many American ships as we can, make the British surrender before America goes to war,
Yep.
and then the Germans would win.
I feel like the Germans was a fine line, like trying to push it, but not have the Americans come in. So they had to like test to see how far they could go.
It didn't work.
Nope.
So
Fail.
February 1917, another reason for war for America was the Zimmermann Note. What was that?
It was this note or telegram sent by the German ambassador to the ambassador in Mexico, and essentially saying, if you ally with us, we will eventually give you some money and help you reclaim land that was taken by the United States. So to get somebody who shared a border with us in the war, which would maybe draw us into it. I don't know.
It makes sense. America did steal half of Mexico in the middle of the 1800s. But the British intercepted the note, gave it to the Americans.
That was nice of them.
Uh-huh. And the Americans are going to call for war with Germany. So we will enter the war in April of 1917. There is the Zimmermann Note.
A bunch of numbers, all decoded eventually. It was interesting because the British had to be really careful, because if they gave it too, right away, or too quickly, they didn't want the Germans to know that they had their decoder, because then they would change all their codes. So when they started finding out information, they had to deal with it, very carefully, so that way they could still keep intercepting messages.
That is true.
Sneaky.
Here's a decoded version of the Zimmermann Note. You can read it on your own time. I'm sure you will.
If you can read.
All right, so back on the home front here in
yeah.
America, this is total war. So countries are using everything they have to the war effort.
So even if you weren't actually a soldier or in the military, you were doing everything that you could. So you'll see those posters, save food, help the soldiers. It was all about rationing, so limiting your resources, so that way any extra money, any extra resources could hopefully go to the soldiers and to help the Allies in this war against Germany.
And the Allies will win the war. January 1918, President Wilson issued his 14-point plan to end the war without blaming any country. However, England and France are not going to want to do that. They want to punish the Germans.
Yeah.
Russia had a civil war break out with the communists
Russian
took over.
Revolution.
And they got out of the war. What was the name of the treaty?
The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk.
Because Litovsk
So
is funny.
inappropriate.
Because Litovsk. That's
I
a
know.
funny word.
It's a funny word. If you only knew what it meant, guys.
So the Russians, by bowing out of the war, are going to give up a tremendous amount of land to Germany, and more importantly, all those German soldiers can now head
Go
towards.
to France.
Oh, yeah.
An all-out assault and hopefully end the war.
There is the Treaty of something Litovsk, and we can see all of this land here. It's a huge chunk of territory, most of Ukraine today.
That's crazy, actually, when you think about it.
So-
All right, last offensive. I was going to say Battle of the Bulge. I'm confusing my world wars here. The second Battle of the Marne, same area, that nice, little, lovely little river near Paris. And the Germans are going to go on the offensive and hopefully defeat the Allies. But with the renewed strength with the Americans behind the French, it gave them the moral support to really keep going. And the Germans are going to be defeated.
On the 11th hour of the 11th month of the 11th day, all was quiet on the Western Front.
Yep.
So
Sign that armistice.
that will officially end World War One. But we still have Section 4 to talk about all the
Yeah.
ramifications
Pause.
of it. All right.
Almost done, guys. So a 13.4, a flawed piece. So you see there the big four. I'm not even going to begin to guess which one. They all look the same. Older white gentlemen with beards.
So all white people look the same? That's racist.
All Europeans look the same. Oh wait, is that even appropriate?
Woodrow Wilson's
So,
American.
I,
All right, just go.
anyways, so a flawed piece. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect. So the big four: Britain, France, the United States. Are we going to go to the next slide, or are you just going to stare at these
And
guys?
Italy.
Like,
God, Victoria Orlando's
I'm-
hot.
oh yeah, which one is he?
There he is.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. So anyways, Vittorio. I was in Orlando actually over vacation. So anyways, Russia and the Central Powers not invited. Poor Germany. Think about how you would feel if you were in a fight and they didn't call you to the office. And
happy.
they just punished you. Britain and France, not really supportive of Wilson's plan for peace. Remember Wilson's 14 points and some of his ideas, not really putting the blame on anybody. But unfortunately, the British and the French kind of want to punish the Germans. And then we got the Treaty of Versailles, another Treaty of Versailles.
How ironic, June 28th, same day as the assassination of
Franz Ferdinand. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
All right, a League of Nations will be created. That was one of Wilson's points, which will be an international peacekeeping organization. I'm not going to do very well, but
yeah,
we'll talk
no.
about that.
United
All right,
Nations.
so we have a whole new map here. New countries will be created. Now we have a separate Austria, separate Hungary, new countries Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Turkey. Poland is back on the map, and the Baltic countries as well.
Fell.
So here's Europe before. We see all these large empires. There they are.
It's
and
so
here's
different.
Europe after. So all of these smaller little countries.
From Austria-Hungary.
So Austria-Hungary got broken up. Germany lost a lot of land, and the Ottoman Empire was broken up as well.
And there's Poland, and trying to think of some of the other countries. All new ones formed over there too.
Oh boy.
Yep.
It's free for now till
For
World War
now.
II. So the costs of the war were heavy. 10 million soldiers died. 20 million more were injured.
And it's crazy because some of those deaths were caused by disease and infection. So many casualties, not directly in the war, but like sometimes after.
Yeah, the
due to
Spanish flu
injuries.
broke
Yeah.
out during the war, killing an estimated 50 to 100 million people.
That's crazy.
I know. And then there was a Holocaust in World War I, which the Turks have not admitted to this day. There was a genocide of Armenians, where another million were killed.
So many people forget about that. They always think about, during World War II with Hitler and the Jews during the Holocaust, but there was a huge genocide.
Absolutely. An entire generation of Europeans were wiped out. It's going to impact the way future leaders will deal with aggressive leaders like Hitler and Mussolini. So this war is going to have a tremendous impact for many, many decades.
Not just money, but
So this famous Treaty of Versailles is going to punish Germany very, very heavily.
which I always thought was ironic because they didn't actually start the war. They weren't the
know.
first to declare war, so I always find it funny that that they're forced to take the blame for it, even
They
though
caused the most
Yep,
damage,
yep.
and the French really wanted to punish them. So Germany had to sign the treaty, which blamed them and they had to accept guilt for the war. And they had to pay an unspecified amount of reparation payments, which was like $30 billion.
They could only keep like 6 warships, and they had to reduce the size of their army and their navy. It was, it took its toll. They did not want Germany to be involved in another war.
Absolutely. So they're gonna take away a lot of their a means of waging war. And it's going to make Germany very weak militarily, and economically they're going to be weak with the new government that didn't know how to handle the problem. So this is going to sow the seeds for maybe a second world war.
Because right now this isn't World War One. It's only the Great War.
That's right. All right, so that concludes World War